While London's bagel culture may not hold the same notoriety as New York, don't let that fool you into thinking the city is devoid of some truly iconic bagel-dedicated bakeries. Bagels arrived in London's East End during the 19th century, brought over by Polish Jews who had made their new home in this area. As London's Jewish community has grown and spread across the city, bagels have too. I'm going to check out 3 different bagel shops, all representative of different moments in London's Jewish history. But first, I took to the streets of London to gather intel on the beloved roll with a hole. So what makes a good bagel in your eyes?
It's got to not be too dry.
Personally, I like a bit of chewiness. There's this whole bagel debate between toasted and untoasted.
Where do you stand?
You see, if I was at home, I would toast it, but because these are fresh, I think you can eat them on the chewy, not toasted vibe.
Where do you think the best bagels in London are?
Obviously here. It's the only place.
It's usually Daniel's.
Okay. I agree.
I think people in this area might be a bit biased though.
I tend to like the ones from Daniel's, I have to say. They are very nice. They're actually quite big as well.
Yeah.
Bagels were always bought in the East End, then close to Bloom's.
The first stop of the day was Daniel's. Opened in 1989, Daniel's is one of the many kosher bakeries found along the streets of Golders Green. In the early 20th century, many Jewish families left the East End in favour of the suburbs of northwest London. There are records of Jewish shops in the area from 1910, and by 1959, Jewish people made up a quarter of the area's population. So inside the bag, we've got the goods. 6 sesame bagels. Sesame's a personal choice, that's just what I like. You can see that's a stunning crust and a really nice, healthy amount of sesame seeds. It's properly covered. That's a perfect bagel. It's so sweet and dense, but you can tell they're fresh as well. In the tree-lined streets of Primrose Hill, you'll find It's Bagels, a recently opened, hyper-trendy New York-style bagel shop. Shops of this nature have been popping up all across London over the past year, framing themselves as interpretations of New York culture more so than Jewish culture. Sat on a bench in Primrose Hill and I've got my second bagel. This one is more of a New York style, you can already see it's a lot taller, but I'd actually say maybe less even sesame seed distribution. I don't know why, but the sesame taste is a lot stronger on this one. I'd also say it's a bit softer, like less of a, you can see the crust is not as thick and defined as it was in the Daniel's. It's a bit more like of a fluffy bagel experience. And the vibe is very pretentious, but they know what they're doing with the bread. To round up our journey, I'm ending at the most iconic bagel spot in London. Brick Lane Bagel Bake has been providing East Londoners with salt-leaf-filled bagels at all hours of the day since the 1960s, outlasting the recently closed rival shop just next door. While it's now surrounded by overpriced vintage shops, this institution stands as a reminder of the East End's Jewish history. Final bagel from Brick Lane Bagels, I would say it's a little bit smaller. She's a little bit more petite than the others, and bizarrely, there are poppy seeds up on there, and definitely a lot less sesame seeds. I think Daniel's, we were going the heaviest with the sesame seeds, and we've been gradually decreasing since then. You can kind of see that these have been the hole isn't made, they're a strip and they're joined together, so you can see where that join is there. She looks beautiful. I still think it's a thinner crust than Daniel's. I think Daniel's has got the heftiest crust, and this is somewhere in the middle of It's a Bagel, or It's Bagels and Daniel's, but I think it may be worth the hype actually.